Time to take a coding break. Howdy, Coding Pros, and welcome back to the Coding Break podcast. I am your Coding Break reminder, your medical coding coach, as well as instructor, and the host of the Coding Break podcast. Here to serve as a reminder for you to take your coding break. So, on this week's episode, I want to talk about mental health. Mental health and how it affects medical coding professionals. Something we haven't really delved into or really thought about, but there was a scenario or situation that actually prompted that aha moment that it may be something we need to talk about. How does medical coding affect our mental health? There are several ways, especially if you are a remote coding professional, and then two is the charts that we read. Yes, the charts that we read. It does affect our mental health, especially if you've been reading those charts for a long period of time. It affects your health. So one example I can give, it depends on specialty, depends on the type of coding that you do. And again, if you've been coding that particular specialty or procedure or services for a long time, you may find it to become redundant, or it may become draining, or it takes a toll on your mental health. And so, because keep in mind, as a medical coding professional, you are examining medical records, right? So it's important that we, take our coding breaks or do the things that we need to do, such as exercise, go for a walk, step away, to balance out our mental health or to have somewhat of a good mental health status, right? So I know, when I code certain specialties, especially there's one procedure, and I won't go into detail, but there is one procedure. It's fairly easy. It is an easy procedure, but it is a redundant procedure. And I was saying to myself, oh my God, I can't stand it. I'm tired of it, right? And again, it's a very, very simple procedure. It's a regular procedure, but I was exhausted or tired from reviewing it, coding it, and that could be me. Maybe I wanted something more complex to code. I don't know. But even if we go to complex cases to code, that can take a toll on our mental health, because we have to take the time to do the research. We have to take the time to read the notes, especially if it's a surgical procedure or a complex surgical procedure. We have to take the time to review the notes, the steps, ensuring that we are selecting the correct codes. That can take a toll on us. So then if, let's say you take that complex surgical coding scenario and you add productivity time associated with it, there may be a specific time frame that you must adhere to when doing or completing coding. And so you're going through this complex case, and then you have a timeline that you have to meet, or a deadline you have to meet. Yes, that can take a toll on you. And then once you've completed coding, you may still feel slightly unsure if you select the correct codes. Again, because it is complex. And yes, we have AI, which is there to help, but still you have to confirm the suggested codes that AI presents to you based on their scrubbing of a particular case or operative report. You still have to confirm whether or not your coding, the coding that was suggested by AI, is accurate. So you have to take all of those things into consideration, and it can take a toll on you. Or perhaps you are coding a specialty where you're reading the charts, and although the charts may be different, but they still fall in line with that particular specialty, it can take a toll on you, especially if you're an empath. And so you have to step away from the scene, from coding. One, to rest your eyes. One, to get some fresh air. And two, just to recalibrate and before you go back at it. And so again, I am your coding break reminder. Please take your coding breaks. And so so that's just the day-to-day coding, right? We hadn't even got into the remote coding aspect. And I'm speaking for someone who's been doing remote coding for years, that it can take a toll on you if you don't have any activities or anything that you can lean upon, or anyone you can lean upon. When you are a remote coding professional, depression can sink in. And so one of the things that let me go back. So one of the things, some of the things I used to do, well, one, I had a good friend circle, right? They may not be in the field. They may be in the field of medical coding, but I had a really good friend circle. Ones I can lean on, like, whether it be, phone call, text message, we hang out. Some of us, we used to take aerobic classes together. Of course, it was during after hours, after we work, we would go do our aerobics class together. Again, and I'm aging myself because this was like when Zumba was like all the rave. So we take Zumba classes together. And then I also started taking like water aerobics, aqua classes, because, I wanted to get my cardio up, and it was fun. The particular water aerobics course that I took, it was fun. We had music and then they had a set time, a set day. So you typically saw some of the same people. You develop some type of relationship, kinship with those people, the participants. I would go for a walk. Like I said, I would read a book, thanks to Audible. I would read a book. And so, or I listened to a book. And then, again, like I said, there are things, I did things, let me go back. So I stepped away from the computer screen to, one, rest my eyes, and then to also kind of shift my mindset and then come back at it. So these are some of the things that I did. Like I said, I have a really good friend circle. And so I had other people I could lean on, and not to talk about medical coding, because we don't violate HIPAA over here. Never, ever do we violate HIPAA. But it was someone I could lean on if I needed to talk to someone outside of coding. And then, like I said, I participated in different activities, curricular activities, to take my mind away from that, to give me an outlet outside of being remote. I was able to interact with other people. And then for those, if you have children, like school-age children, you had something to look forward to. Like, you got them ready before your day started to get them to school. And then you have that interaction with them upon their return from school. So you had that interaction. You had a family of people who, people you can interact with to kind of keep you from being isolated. Now, some people do love it. They love it. They don't want to be around a bunch of people. They love that. And some people, they need that. They do need that. Over time, you will need that. I can say personally, I think I may have dabbled in and out of isolation or depression over time, but for the most part, like I said, I had activities and people who I could connect with, and things I can get involved in outside of the medical coding space. But yeah, so we never really tapped into the mental health of a coding professional, because again, we are looking at medical records, and so over a long period of time, that stuff can and will have an impact on you, on your mental health. And so it's very important that we develop and establish things, again, to keep our mental health healthy on a positive note, versus like taking it in and, just sitting with it and not being able to express it or to get it out, right? It is very important. It's very important that we do that. Again, we're not violating HIPAA or anything, and definitely not talking about coding in as specific as it is, but to find things that like we may talk about coding, but not the specifics of coding. Like, we won't say, okay, this chart or the patient's name or what have you. We never do that. So yeah, so that's something we need to kind of tap into. And I also, when I wrote my book about some of the requirements for being a remote coder, I actually touched on that and actually gave some information for those who were facing depression, perhaps anxiety, isolation, loneliness. Like I did provide, contact information to kind of help with that. Maybe you need counseling, maybe you need to talk to someone. Maybe it may not even be related to medical coding. Perhaps you have some external issues or concerns that you're dealing with, and it may be affecting your medical coding, right? It may be impacting or affecting your medical coding. And so you want to talk to someone to get those feelings out, maybe journaling, I don't know, so that you can regain your focus when it comes to medical coding. Because one thing you don't want to do is your mind, or you're so distracted that when you go to review or code a case that you accidentally select the wrong code. And then once you're better and you go back and look at it, you're like, why did I do that? Like, where was my mindset when I did that? And so, so you want to make sure that you are getting the help that you need, so that when you are coding, that you're not distracted. Distracted. We talk about external distractions, like people, like children, like or just I say children or people, just distracting us from during our coding. So that's why they encourage when you doing remote coding that you're in a somewhat of like an office or a separate room with a door, so that it minimizes the distractions that you receive. But yeah, but there are other distractions. Like I said, there may be some other pressing issues that you are thinking about while you're trying to code, and it may have you distracted mentally and so you actually opt for the incorrect code. So those are things you want to, deal with. I mean, we all, don't get me wrong, we all have, distractions, which is normal, internal distractions, excuse me. But again, we want to make sure we get those, or keep those in check, or keep those at bay when we are actually doing medical coding, as not to let it interrupt our day-to-day medical coding and we accidentally assign the wrong codes to the patient. And although AI is suggesting codes, and I would say, although we're talking about AI, I don't. There are still facilities that aren't on AI. Let me repeat that. There are facilities that aren't on AI, so we still want to continue to code as if we are the actual or the only coders there. Assigning the codes to those claims or to those records. So again, you want to make sure that you are getting the help that you need, that you develop some habits, some routines to kind of help you offset isolation, that from being isolated, that you're not, you're unfocused. And so there's different things that you can do. Like I said, I have a support group. I have a circle of friends. I, enrolled in extracurricular activities to, again, help me connect with people outside, other people. And I do have children, but my children they're grown. So, but yeah, so do things that are positive to you, again, whether it be a hobby, whether it be gardening, anything that's a distraction or gives you an outlet from just medical coding. I would encourage you to kind of tap into that and go forth. So yeah, so that's all that I have for this coding break. And again, if you have any other suggestions or recommendations, or things that you want to know, you want to pick my brain about, please sure to DM me, comment on under this video, because it will be on YouTube, and let me know, and we'll go forward and I will share what I know. And yeah, that's it. So until the next time, remember to always code on. Toodles.